Hey everybody. So you may have noticed that I haven't posted in a while, and that's due to a couple different reasons. First of all, just been extremely busy, and second of all, been really thinking hard about this channel and my role as a jazz educator in your life, in the online space or maybe even the physical space. And I've come to the conclusion that we should really make some changes, right? So the way that I do this thing, being a jazz educator, is really important to me. And what I am going for is the most effective communication of, at the end of the day, how to be a better musician and get the most fulfillment out of doing this. Because if we're doing it and we're not getting any fulfillment or joy out of it, then we're doing it wrong. And it's occurred to me that there's a couple of problems with the way that I am going about this. And through a lot of sitting down and really thinking about it and thinking about all of you, I've come to some things that I really want to do differently here. So what I want to basically do is just talk to you about these thoughts that I'm having and some of the changes that I want to make on my end, and then hopefully some of the changes that you'll make on your end as a result of these things that I want to do. And hopefully it'll all come out better for all of us. But again, this is just a big experiment. So we kind of have to go through these proposed changes that I'm thinking about, and then we'll evaluate on the other side whether it's working for both parties. So let's chat a little bit. So sort of the big, overarching question I've been asking myself is, where does my value to you come from? Because at the end of the day, the only way that I'm going to be able to keep teaching and having people come back to me as a teacher is if I give you value and you see some change in your life and music due to your interactions with me. So that's sort of the big question that I've sort of been asking myself, and whether this channel and my online presence in general facilitates that. So a couple of thoughts that I've had. My value to you is probably not in presenting you information, because everything is out there. And if our interactions result in me relaying some information to you in an organic and sensical way, great, I'm happy to do that. I mean, information is important, but the internet is like the most amazing collection of information that has ever been, right? It's the biggest library in the universe that is accessible to us all the time from our homes. Actually, not just our homes, anywhere you are at this point. So I've presented a lot of information on this channel and in the podcast and all that kind of stuff. I'm starting to think that I need to move in a different direction, because all that information that I've taught is still out there. You could still access it. But moving on, what I want to do is I want to get to know you better. I want to know where you get stuck in your process. How do you think about the process? And I want to interact with you in a way that I can give you a solution or something to go forward with that's a little bit more personalized to you. And I think that that is going to be much more valuable to you than just information that's designed to go out to thousands of people, and I have no idea what you're doing with it. I have no idea if you're struggling with it. I have no idea what that process actually looks like for you. So it will take me a long time to get to know a lot of you, but that's okay. I'm in this for the long term. This is what I've chosen to do for a living, so I'm not going anywhere. And I want to get to know as many of you as possible. And I think through the process of helping you one at a time, if that's done in a forum where other people can see and benefit from that, it'll help everybody at the end of the day, not just the person I'm helping. So less information output, information for information's sake, and more in getting to know this community and really learn the struggles and successes, setbacks and wins of all of you who are really my community of jazz students. So what does this mean for, the YouTube channel and everything that I do online going forward? So it's probably going to result in a couple of things. A lot more of me interacting with this community, because if I want to know what you are doing and all these things, I've got to spend more time interacting with you. And that's my goal for this year, is a lot more interaction. So much of like jazz education and music education has turned into this like one to many. And I'm starting to realize like the limits of that, the limits of being able to make real connections with all of you out there. So if there's less information, that means more content related to quote unquote bigger picture things, right? So things like mindset, more about music and self-expression in general and less about the tactics. Because we could spend like, the next 10 years and I could put out a video on like every single device and tactic that you can use in your solo. But really what's going to happen is that you are going to consume all that information. You're going to put it on a list somewhere, and what you actually work on and get into your playing is going to be like a tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver of that. Nobody can use every sound and every concept in their playing, and it's probably a bad idea to think that you can. But nowadays, like you go onto YouTube and they give you 20 new ideas, and you feel like, rightfully so, I got to learn all these things. These are what all the jazz musicians know. When really, if you look at like a really great jazz musician, they're probably sitting in a room and for like a month, they're working on one tiny little thing, but they're really getting it into their playing, really making it a part of what they can actually say when they're improvising. So I want to get more into that. Like, how does that work? How can you harness the power of that? And I want to just kind of in general put less information out there, because I've been one of the worst offenders of this like information overload. So that's got to stop. We got to do something different, because I see it like actually crippling some students out there, and I don't want to be a part of that anymore. So the content that I do put out is first of all going to be based around the bigger picture things, like how to think, how to keep everything sustainable going forward in your process so that you don't just give up on this music and it's like a lifelong pursuit for you. And the second thing will be more actionable content. So my best friend Chris Claxton and I, we teach in the Jazz Intensive, which is like my online group of sort of full-time students. And we've been talking a lot about this, how to behave like a jazz musician. And I think that this is like huge, huge, huge in terms of maybe something that you're missing in your jazz education. Because again, like you can intellectually know piles and piles and piles of information, but if you can't behave in a way that some of this stuff comes out, and not even just comes out the way that you want it to, with the intention and style that you want it to come out. That's a big, big thing that I see holding a lot of people back. It's the intangible stuff. It's like swing, articulation, note length, a feeling that I think can only be taught through action. And the person that taught me this was Clark Terry. I mean, like, he never wrote anything down for us. And when we hung with Clark, it was like never about like, here's a piece of information and I'm going to show you all the ins and outs of this and stuff like that. It was like, let's play together. I'm going to play something, you play it back to me. So the emphasis became like trying to behave like Clark Terry did when he played his trumpet. And that is the most valuable education that I ever got. Again, I had to learn the information, yeah, of course, but like we could really take our time with that, because if we have just a tiny bit of information, but we can act on it and we can use it with the correct behavior that makes people go like, wow, this sounds great. Oh, that's just going to be so much more valuable to you. So I want to put out videos where it's like we're doing an activity and you've got to have your instrument with you when you watch the video. So you're not just consuming the content. You're actually doing something with me. So that's what the changes are going to result in a like more concrete way. So this brings me back to my value to you. So my value as a teacher, and I think sort of the biggest thing a teacher can do, the most noble thing a teacher can do, is to help you design your own education. Actually make my goal that eventually you don't need me anymore. And what I want to do is I want to prompt you to think a little bit deeper about everything that you're doing. I want to turn you into a highly functioning musician that has the knowledge and abilities. And these are equally important. A lot of people think it's just all based on knowledge. I have to know more about tritone substitutions and pentatonics and chord progressions and all this stuff. But really, if you have all the knowledge without the abilities, basically there's not much you're going to be able to do. And if you have the knowledge plus the abilities, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, while all the time making it your goal to reach the next level and the next level and the next level and the next level. So if I can do these things, I think I'll become a much more valuable teacher to you. Okay, so that's what I need to do. Well, what does this mean for you? How are you going to get some of these benefits? So the first thing you need to do is get used to showing up and participating. So I'm going to start doing a lot more things where, as I said, there's interaction. So I'm going to schedule a lot more live streams that you can actually show up and we can interact. I'm also going to be scheduling some big Zoom hangs. And that'll be even better because then I can actually speak to you in real time, not just through a chat box. But you've got to take advantage of these things and you got to show up and participate. You've got to ask the questions because it won't be valuable if you don't. So the second thing is to maybe think about stop consuming so much and start thinking and creating more. So like putting yourself on a little bit more of a lean diet in terms of like information. So let's say you think back to maybe like a video that I put out where you're like, oh, I really like those ideas. Maybe what you do is you just like stop watching other content for a week. And instead your focus is like, let me put those ideas into action. Let me make those something that I can actually use. And this is super hard, but what happens is if you keep consuming, you'll convince yourself that the latest thing that you consumed is the way, is the new way, the best way. Ideas seem attractive, especially if they're new to you, but if you keep bouncing around from idea to idea to idea, you get stuck in this loop of like, you've scratched the surface of a million things, but you actually can't do anything with any of them. Another thing you have to realize is I can't do the work for you, but the information is just a launching pad for a harder but more fruitful process. Yeah, this is hard. Like it's not just going to magically turn easy, but like that's where the real benefits lie, is in that slog of like taking a small piece of information and examining it from every angle and like actually using it. And the true test of that is like, does it actually come out in my playing? And at the end of the day, it's just, let's get deeper than surface level. That's like the whole message of this thing. So these are the changes that are coming. You're going to see a lot less stuff from me that's just like a tutorial where I'm just dumping information on you. And you're going to start seeing some more activity-based stuff. And then we're going to just talk more about like how you should be thinking, how you should be approaching this music from a bigger level that will then work its way down into the specific things that you're practicing and how you're actually spending your minutes. Also, keep your eyes open for things like live streams and things like these Zoom hangs that I'm going to start doing. I'm in the process of also finding a place where we can hang out online that's like not Facebook. A place that we can, form a community and we can all just hang and talk about stuff like this. That's, not going to be modules and modules and modules of information, and allow us to stop sort of like feeding that problem and gain a little bit more clarity about like what we actually want to do with this music. And again, coming up with like a sustainable path of how to get there. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and stay tuned because I can't wait to interact with more of you, get to know you a little bit better, and ultimately make my presence here a more valuable presence. Really help you get where you want to go with music. So looking forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.